Well, hello everybody. I'm Izzy. I'm going to be interviewing our lovely panelists today. And this is a chat where we're going to meet the women of Motorsport UK. This opportunity is obviously put across by Girls on Track UK and Motorsport UK, so we do have them to thank for this. So basically, a little bit about me is I'm 23 years old, currently graduated from the University of Salford, which is quite a nice university in Manchester. I did an undergrad in radio and TV production, where I basically was able to make documentaries about motorsport. That was my final project. And I basically wanted to do it on the inclusion of women and highlight why there wasn't like loads of opportunities for women. So I went up and down the country, spoke to some really interesting people, some from Aston Martin, some from BBC. So I interviewed a presenter called Grace Webb, who does a load of kids TV about motorsport. And another one was about Fern GP, which is a female leading race team. I've obviously done work with Girls on Track. So in the summer, I was a volunteer presenter for the BTCC, which was amazing. I went to Snetterton. That was incredible. Everyone was so lovely. And obviously that was partnered with Girls on Track and Cosworth. And then what else did I do? I did some volunteering at a school. That was also with Cosworth and Girls on Track. And basically I was part of the team of the pit stop challenge. So it's really interesting to see all the girls coming quite nervous. And then obviously by the day progressing, they're all getting really into it. And obviously some were actually left saying that they would actually consider a career in motorsport, which is actually amazing to see. So yes, this is a very beneficial community. So if you're not a part of it, definitely join. So I think we should probably speak to some of our panelists. We have today, so I don't know if you guys want to turn your mics on and we can go around and introduce each other.
So I'm Danielle. I am the social media manager at Motorsport UK. So I look after all of our social media channels within the building. So that includes Girls on Track UK as well. So I look after the Facebook community and the Instagram and Twitter. So if you're seeing any posts on there, that is come mostly from me. And then yeah, all of the other channels that we run as well, including the Academy, which Becky will talk about later, and esports and streetcar as well.
I am Minna. I'm commercial assistant, and I basically help the sort of commercial team in delivering all of our contractual rights for our different partners. So we have partners not only as a sort of organisation ourselves, but we look after sort of 3 in-house championships: the British Kart, British Rally, and the British F4 Championship. And then also sort of other partners for things like Girls on Track, so we can help get funding to deliver fantastic events like these. And then on top of that, we sort of have our general advertising across our Motorsport UK platforms, the website, email newsletters and stuff like that. So I sort of do a lot of outreach to new companies to try and get them involved.
My name is Becky. I'm the Academy Operations Manager at Motorsport UK. So I organise and arrange all of our driver development sessions. So we look after over 100 drivers and co-drivers at the moment, and they will all be competing at a certain level. So a lot of them will compete in British Kart Championship, British F4, Ginettas, things like that. But we also have a group of drivers that are competing internationally. And the driver development sessions that we deliver range from everything from in-car to out-of-car. So we're not just trying to help people just physically go fast around the track. We're trying to help them become well-rounded athletes as well. So we look at psychological development, things like that. And yeah, I work very closely with Danielle, who's done a brilliant job in being able to showcase these things and hopefully reach the next generation of talented motorsport drivers.
I'm Abbie. I'm finance business partner here at Motorsport UK. So I am an accountant by trade, but with Motorsport UK I work with other business departments such as events and all the in-house championships, overhead, so the likes of marketing, and then sport development programs such as the Academy and Girls on Track. Part of my role is providing both financial and non-financial key performance indicators and analysis, which supports with business decision making, and then obviously assessing the financial and non-financial impacts of all of those decisions.
I'm Emily. I'm the digital content lead at Motorsport UK. So I currently look after the Motorsport UK website and all of our email marketing. And we're also working on the content strategy and the digital strategy for our new website, which will be coming next year, which is very exciting.
I was saying thank you very much for all being here and taking the time out of your busy schedules. So I don't know if you want to go around and maybe say how you got into your career path, if there was any way that you were inspired at all, or if it was just pot luck and you're happy to be where you are. So I don't know if anyone wants to go first, or shall I just pick someone?
So I kind of got into motorsport. I've always been a fan of motorsport, but I didn't realize that I could do a career in motorsport until I was doing my postgraduate at uni, and my supervisor said to me, well, you need to figure out what you want to write your dissertation on, kind of think about what you like in your kind of personal life, and kind of what you like about the course, and kind of mash them together. And that was kind of the pin drop moment that I was like, oh, this makes sense as a career. I can do marketing within motorsport. That's something that's possible. And then from there, I wrote my dissertation on fan engagement with drivers on social media. So that was kind of 20,000 word project. So, spent loads and loads of time researching drivers and what they post on their social media pages and kind of how that works. And then from then I did a year's experience at a sports marketing agency. So I was working with athletes outside of motorsport, as I couldn't get into the industry straight away. And I've just seen, they said, what was your degree? So my undergraduate degree was not actually in marketing at all. I did an undergraduate degree in dance. And then I did my postgraduate in digital marketing. So that was kind of very digital focused. And then kind of from there, I kind of specialized in social media. And then, yeah, like I was saying, I then went on from that year's experience. That put me in good stead to then apply for the role at Motorsport UK. And I was lucky enough to kind of have enough experience and knowledge to be able to get the position. And then I've been now at Motorsport UK for over 12 months.
That's really good. And so day to day, what is your favourite part that you get excited to take part in?
I think it's the variation. I get to cover so much at Motorsport UK, being the governing body and all the programs that we run. So just the variation, like every day is different. I get to go to loads of amazing events with Girls on Track, with the academy, race weekends, and just get to interact with so many different people. And then that enables me to be creative in so many different ways, because it's not doing the same thing over and over. It's, you can always be creative. And I think that's what I love about the job.
Yeah, and I suppose meeting people from different ages as well all helps the social media, because obviously they all have different proficiencies of it, and seeing what the latest trends are, or new perspectives, but that really helps with your job.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that's really kind of niche to Motorsport UK is kind of our community isn't just one age. We have such a broad age range. We have karters from 6 years old to kind of people that are driving in rallies into their 60s. So we're always kind of thinking of how we can reach those individual target audiences with different pieces of content. So we're not just kind of trying to do fun content, but we're also trying to think of how we can reach the older generation and speak to them in the way that they want to be spoken to online. So it's really interesting, and you kind of adapt to the different audiences.
That's perfect. Thank you. Who wants to go next?
I'm happy to. I had a bit of a weird entry into the sport, so I'm happy to try and explain that a little bit. Very similar to Danielle, I was quite a big fan of motorsport when I was younger, and it's the only thing that me and my dad really watched together when I was younger. So we'd always watch F1 on Sundays. I did a degree in sports psychology, and then when I left uni, I had a bit of a jump around to different industries. So I was a dental nurse for a little bit, which is a bit random and a huge mistake. I worked at an accountant. I worked at a parts manufacturer business. And I think those jobs really helped me develop some core skills in terms of time management, multitasking, organization, things like that. I kind of wanted to get into motorsport because, like I said, it was kind of a bit of a passion sport of mine. And at one point I thought I wanted to work in PR. So I did a creative writing course, kind of, extra to my normal day job. And then I did a little bit of volunteering with a car club. I ran their social media channels for about a year and a half. And I don't know whether it did or not, but I put that on my CV. I saw the job at Motorsport UK 6 years ago. The job I've got now has developed a lot since I've been at Motorsport UK. So when I first joined, I worked for the Marshals team and sport development and the academy. I was kind of split across all three. And things have changed now. There's extra resource in those departments. So the departments have built up quite substantially. I don't know if it did help on my CV, but I put my my volunteering kind of experience and got the job, and then it's kind of gone from there, really.
That's amazing. And would you say there's good progression within Motorsport UK? So you can start off as one thing and then work your way up?
Yeah, I mean, the organisation's gone through a restructure. Obviously, we rebranded about 5.5 years ago. The focus now is more on, rather than just being completely regulation based, we're doing a lot now in the promotion of the sport as well, with initiatives like Girls on Track. And yeah, I think, the more the sport develops as well, outside of what we do as Motorsport UK, we want to be able to keep up with that and have good people, in-house to develop the sport as well. So me personally, I've been very lucky. I've had career development during my time at Motorsport UK. I started off as a development assistant across 3 different teams, and then became kind of full-time with the academy about 3 years ago.
That's amazing. And what would you say is your best part about the job?
Best part of the job, I think for me, it's being able to support so many people in different ways. So give them opportunities to learn and to grow. We don't charge anything for anyone to be on the academy, so everything that we do is self-funded. And yeah, just I think when we get the drivers, sometimes when they first join, they just want to be in a car all the time doing laps on the sim, like that's all they think that is going to help them develop, and to an extent it does, but I think we're able to kind of then make them realize there's other ways they can develop. The sport's really tricky to make a living in, so we're hopeful that we can try and keep them in the sport through other ways, whether that's showing them other industries to work in within the sport, like media, engineering, those kind of things. So yeah, and I love problem solving, and a lot of my drivers will come to me the day before they need a license upgrade or something silly, and then I've got to work with the membership team to kind of help make that happen. So that's quite a good part of the job.
That's amazing. It's amazing. Who else wants to share?
I can go. So I did a degree in geography. I specialised in geographical data science, and then I sort of took a year out. I did, completely different. I did ski season. I, went traveling a bit. The whole of my university degree was during COVID, and I sort of lost a little bit of love for the subject. And like the others, motorsport was always that kind of thing on the side that was a hobby and that I had a passion for, but I never thought that there was possibilities within it for a career until I then sort of got some work experience at a company called Altair Engineering, and I just did a small 4-week sort of work experience thing there, and then did some volunteering. I volunteered at Goodwood Revival, and then I wrote to the ITV race director on the TOCA package, so that's BTCC and F4, and he sort of took me under his wing and helped show me around of sort of what a race meeting and what a race weekend means, and then from that I sort of built up some connections and then went back to the paddock, and I was sort of very old-fashioned. I took along some printed CVs and I walked up and down the paddock, and took me a while. I remember someone asked me if I was lost because I'd been walking up and down there so many times trying to pluck up the courage to speak to different people, and sort of through that it took I went to 2 weekends and handed out CVs as much as I could, and speaking to people and asking if they had any roles available. I knew I'd done a bit of research before and saw that some of them had some roles but also others didn't, but that didn't stop me from still sort of just asking, even if it was just for some extra work experience, some unpaid work, just to sort of build up my CV a little bit more. And yeah, it just so happened that Motorsport UK were recruiting. I wasn't actually quite qualified enough for the position, but they were, very kind, and they sort of said, look, like you enough that we want to take you on, and we're going to sort of create a role for you with the hope that you will then progress into that role that they were recruiting for originally. And yeah, that's sort of how I did it, with some printed out pieces of paper.
Gotta be done. There's no internet, that's making it super easy, is it?
Yeah, exactly. I think, they appreciated the sort of effort that went into it to an extent to get myself out there. And, certainly the motorsport industry is a weird one. It's a very sort of big but small industry, and getting your name out there and people seeing your face and, actually having a chat with you means a lot. And whether or not that's what made the difference, but no, I'm very grateful to be here.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Right, who wants to go next?
I'm happy to go next, if that's what you're feeling. Okay, so if I cast back 10 years ago, which is quite a scary amount of time, back when I was sitting my A levels, I was kind of torn between, I knew I wanted a corporate career, but I was kind of torn between doing law or doing accounting. I think I got to that point where I'd studied so much that I decided I really did not want to go to university. And having sort of 2 part-time jobs at the time, I knew that I wanted to go into work. So I did some work experience in an accountancy firm, really enjoyed it. And then they weren't recruiting, but I sent my CV off anyway. And they, sort of similar to Minna, I guess, they made a position for me.
Yeah.
So it goes to show that work experience leaves a good impression. And that's a really good piece of advice. And so I spent a couple of years there learning all the basics, starting out my qualifications, doing all the tax, corporate tax, personal tax, capital gains tax, payroll, accounts, all of the boring stuff. Yeah. Then after that, I decided I wanted to finish my qualifications in audit. I went and specialised in charity and not-for-profit and academy school audit for a couple of years, which was really fun. Travelling the country and living in a hotel every week was great. And then I kind of got to the point where spending 3 hours commuting each way each day kind of wasn't the right thing for me anymore. So it was a bit much. It was fun while it lasted. Motorsport had always been something I enjoyed. Like, I remember being yay big and watching it on the TV with my mum, and it's something that myself and my boyfriend have always been quite into as well. So I didn't really think of it as a viable career option, particularly for someone that had come from very practice-based finance. So what happened was I put my job on, I think it was Reed, my CV, on an accountancy-based job board, and thought I'll just see what comes of it. And a recruiter called me, and I was walking down the street, and I'm very lucky that I picked up the phone at the time, and said her first opening question was, if you could work in any industry, what would it be? So I was like, oh, motorsport, but that will never happen. And she was like, you'll never guess what. And she was put out there to find someone for Motorsport UK. So obviously I jumped at the opportunity, went through, I think, 2 or 3 interviews, and then landed the job, and I've never looked back.
That's amazing. I think that seems to be a running theme, isn't it? That you don't really initially think that you could have a job in motorsport. It's almost something it's just like a passion project. But then when these opportunities do come, you're like, hell yeah, I'll do that. That's amazing. So what would you say is your favourite part about your job?
I think making finance fun for people that don't like numbers. So obviously maths isn't for everyone, but if you can make something visual or graphic with the use of Power BI and Smartsheet and bring numbers to life, everyone can enjoy maths and everyone can understand stats and things like that. The variety and sort of everyone that I work with in the building, I probably work with 25 different budget holders and a further maybe 10 stakeholders. Yeah. So there's lots of new perspectives, lots of new questions, and the discovery and the stats and the data and the analysis, it never stops ending. There's always more. Yeah, that's amazing. I think it all leads to On Track. I think that's the end goal, isn't it? It's not just something that you do and then nothing comes of it. The whole purpose of all these different departments is to make the whole sport as an entirety. So yeah, no, I get that. So Emily, do you want to have a go?
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of similarly to everybody else, my background isn't in motorsport. I come from a pure marketing background. I worked for a marketing agency for 3 years, and then I've done various in-house roles. Um, I have always been a lover of motorsport. I couldn't escape it. My dad is a huge motorsport fan. His grandparents, his uncle had a model car shop at Brands Hatch when he was a kid, so he was there every weekend and kind of instilled that in me growing up. And then my partner at the time is a huge motorsport fan, so I literally can't escape it. But had never really thought about it as an industry or as a career path. And then I got made redundant earlier this year, as so did a lot of people in marketing, and sort of thought about, what do I want the future of my career to look like? And what for me had been missing from my previous roles was doing something, not only doing something that I'm passionate about, which is marketing and digital content and digital strategy, but doing it for an industry or for an organization that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So when I was being picky with what roles I was applying for, I wasn't just, blanket applying for everything, desperately looking for a job. There was an element of that because, when you're made redundant, you got to pay the bills. But I was trying to be a bit pickier, and when I saw the role open at Motorsport UK, it just sounded absolutely perfect. It's an industry that I love. It's got that family connection with my dad. And the opportunity to come in and actually make a huge difference to the business in shaping their sort of digital strategy was just fantastic. And I think I tried to I didn't have any motorsport experience. I didn't, even coming into the building, I was like, I don't know what an auto test is. I couldn't tell you at all. So it's a huge learning curve. But what someone asked a question about like standing out as an applicant, and it is a really competitive industry. And my kind of thought process, and I think a lot of everyone else on the panel would agree that pretty much every applicant's going to have kind of the same general experience and the similar qualifications, and people will generally be qualified for the role that they're applying for. But I think what made my application stand out was the passion that I put behind it and the story that I had behind my love of motorsport. And so I think that would be my advice to people that are applying in a really competitive industry, whether it's motorsport or whether it's another industry that's really competitive, is if you can showcase your passion, like Minna, like going out in the paddocks with your CVs and handing it out, that's what's going to make you stand out to a recruiter. But yeah.
That's amazing. I think it rings true, doesn't it? Because you can have all the statistics and like you can say all the right things, but you can tell when someone's not passionate about a subject, blank face and like, oh yeah, I really enjoy it. I'm like, do you? So I think obviously being yourself and being passionate about what you do and being honest that, it's not embarrassing to be passionate about something, just go for it. So what would you say that, you enjoy most about your job?
So with my role at Motorsport UK, I get to work with pretty much every department across the business, and that's really fun because I feel like I get to be involved in everything that's going on and everything that we're delivering, which is just fantastic. I work with Girls on Track, I work with Race for Diversity, I work with our club development team, I work with our competitor development team, all of that to make sure that they are represented in our digital communications as they should be. Yeah. So it's really fun to kind of have that really broad view of what's going on across the business and what we're actually doing for our members and for our community.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I hope everyone so far is really enjoying the talk and getting some good insight about the different departments. We do have some preset questions, which I have hadly printed them out, put them in a little kiln jar. So if we're all okay with it, I'm going to start going through some. We can answer some, and obviously if they use the chat, there's like a Q&A function at the bottom. If you want to put your questions in there, or I see them coming through the chat as well, we'll try and get through as many as possible. But obviously I don't want to be running into midnight because everyone needs to have a good night's sleep. Okay, so I'm just going to go through. I did check this out. It does work, hopefully. I just want to apologize for my reading as well. I'm dyslexic, so we're just going to go with it. So to anyone who wants to answer, what is the one thing you would change throughout your career until now? So anything that stands out that you would change it, there wasn't anything, you loved it, all went perfectly, that's a great answer too.
I think just to jump in, I think for me, kind of what I said before really was I was more focused on I want to work in marketing, I want to work in digital, so I'm gonna join a marketing agency and work for anyone and everyone that wants me. And while that was fantastic for gaining experience and gaining that really broad range of like experience and expertise, I think what was really missing, what I've noticed was missing, was I'm not actually passionate about the like businesses that I'm marketing for, and the industries that I'm sort of working in. So that was really, like I said before, that was really what I wanted to change. And it's such a difference, you know, waking up and being like, I get to actually work in an industry that I love and that's really cool, and coming to work and seeing Ferraris outside and stuff like that is just really fun. So I don't know if anyone else has anything else, but that's for me at least what was missing.
That's amazing.
Sorry, I feel like my housemates are unloading the dishwasher, and I'm worried that you can hear glasses like clanking in the background. But I just wanted to sort of also jump in and say to not be too picky. I think I had an idea of the sort of role that I wanted to go into, and I was waiting and waiting for that one specific role to sort of to come out, and it had to tick all of the boxes, and you know, I had to love every single point on the job description. I, you know, originally didn't necessarily, you know, seek a role within the commercial space, but you know, what I will say is that job descriptions are just job descriptions. There's more to it. It's not necessarily always just those, you know, 5 bullet points that you see on LinkedIn. And also that, you know, it doesn't mean that you can't change. I've, you know, expanded my role over the last year to work a lot more within the esports space. I now do a lot of event activation, and work more closely with the events team. So, you know, just don't be too picky in a sense. You know, getting your foot in the door and gaining those connections is so valuable. And just because you sort of go into the commercial space, the marketing space, doesn't mean that you're stuck there forever. There's always, you know, opportunities to chop and change. A lot of it is about what you're learning and how you can apply those different skills. And yeah, I think I just was too focused and stressed on finding the perfect role that I lost sight that actually, you know, there's more to it. And there are also other roles out there that you might not necessarily have heard of that you might, you know, enjoy more or fit the requirements better. I didn't really know what commercial was until a year ago. So yeah, that's sort of another side of it.
Perfect, thank you. Okay. Ooh, 2 are coming out at once. Okay, so everyone can probably answer this one, which is quite a good one. So how is the best way to enter motorsport when you, as a university student? So if there's any courses that you think people should maybe aim for, or obviously most of you went to university, maybe just stating specifically what you learn in university within that course.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
So I actually had a conversation more recently with my manager, kind of about, he was talking about kind of when he does interviews and, you know, how he interviewed me and kind of other people for different roles. But he kind of said, and I guess this is different for every hiring manager, but kind of get your hard skills done. That's the point of kind of going to university, and kind of you still need to have that really strong set of skills and knowledge to be able to do the job, because effectively people want someone that can do the job and do it well. But then kind of the soft skills are then also really, really important. And I think something that's really important kind of in a marketing role, but probably in a lot of other roles, is like that critical analysis of like being able to assess a situation, understand risk, understand opportunities. And I think that is such a key skill that you can learn through your kind of university studies, because I think that's a big part of kind of writing a thesis, writing a dissertation. and being able to kind of explain that in situations not everything's going to go perfectly, but kind of how can you kind of show in an interview that you have those skills, that you can understand that and be adaptive and kind of not see into the future, but kind of be like, okay, well, if we do this, this could happen. Yeah.
I think it's all about being realistic with the outcome, isn't it? Because obviously not everything's tinted rose.
Exactly.
Most of it's such a live environment that you do need to think about, the unfortunate or the unpredictable. So yeah, that's a really good response.
I was going to say a lot of, it depends what area you kind of want to work in, but a lot of businesses or teams offer graduate schemes as well now. So there's different routes to get into the industry without looking for the paid roles. And I would assume that some of the graduate schemes would come with, a contribution to expenses, but there's apprenticeship routes. And there's some really good ways of getting into the sport. If like some of those roles that people are hiring for, you feel like, oh, you haven't got the right skill set. I mean, don't be put off from applying, put yourself out there anyway. But yeah, maybe if you're kind of coming straight out of that higher education route, graduate schemes, apprenticeships, a lot of teams now have that kind of resource in place, but I don't think it was as readily available when I was a bit younger. Whether the resource just wasn't there, but now it's like, it's a way to encourage people to get involved in the sport and find some really talented people through just different routes, different work routes.
Yeah, and I would add to that as well. I think don't be disheartened if you don't get into some of these work schemes, because they are, like I said, the competition is so high and it's so tough. So definitely I'd say volunteering as well. Like even from a university student myself, I've applied for some graduate schemes and things like that and not obviously been successful, but volunteering, it's something that people appreciate because obviously there is no financial benefit and you are just doing it because of the raw passion for it. So yeah, definitely, even if they say, do you know what, not right now, or you're not the right candidate, or maybe another time, be like, is there any like unpaid voluntary work or shadowing if I can do? I think that was, from a university student, I would say that's probably something that's really beneficial.
And you never know who you're going to meet either. Like having, the volunteering route, it brings you closer to the sport. It gets you in the paddocks with some roles. You can have conversations with lots of different people. And like you said, it might not be a right now, but in the future, if you're able to share some contact details with someone or, add them on LinkedIn, their role might develop in the future, and then they might have an opportunity and they might think, oh, I remember meeting Izzy at this event when she was volunteering. I wonder what she's up to now. Exactly. That happens a lot in the sport as well. Motorsport is a really small place. It's a very competitive place, but it's really small. So yeah, definitely if you're volunteering on events, just have conversations with loads of people, because you never know who you're going to chat to.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to jump in. I think Becky touched on something really important there, which is don't be afraid to apply if you don't have all the experience. There's actually a statistic that men on average will apply for a role if they meet, like, I think it's 60 or 70% of the criteria, whereas women will only apply if they meet 90%. And I think like that shows a huge difference in gender, in that women feel like we have to be super, super qualified and actually overqualified for a role. And so I think that's just something really to keep in mind, that when a hiring manager is putting out a role, they're going to put out everything that we want the ideal candidate to have. That doesn't mean that you can't be hired if you don't meet every single one of those criteria, because skills can be learned, things can be worked on and skills can be improved. I think as well, like for university students, it's getting involved in the sport in other ways whilst you're a student. Like, is there a motorsports club or society at university? If there's not, maybe start one. I'm sure there's other people at uni that, would really enjoy that. Is there a local car club that you can go and volunteer at or get involved in? Because all of those things will just showcase your passion even more when you do come to apply for roles as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think, volunteering is almost like just networking seems to be like the biggest way, because no one was born with, the contact list, so that you've got to go out there and almost search it out a bit. But yeah, that's good. So if anyone has anything else to say, that's good. If not, I'll pick another question.
Sorry, can I just jump back in again? I just thought of something. So also something that I did that was really useful is, like, while you're still at university, kind of look at your dream role. and like read the job description, and then it will basically tell you what experience you need, and then you can go and seek out that experience. And that's kind of what I did. I looked at kind of dream roles of where I wanted to be in kind of 2, 3, 4 years time, and it said you need 1 to 2 years experience in motorsport or sports. So that's why I then went and looked for a sports marketing job, and then I got that experience, and then I got there because that's what the job description said. So kind of look, even if you're not there yet, it will literally tell you what you need to do on the job description. And yes, that job might be not there in kind of 6, 12 months time, but most of them are going to be similar. So yeah, I just thought that was a kind of handy tip to kind of share.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And I think as well, it's almost like when you read the job descriptions that you might not be currently available to apply for, when you go for future interviews, you can almost like list off these key things that you've already seen, and they might go, how did you know about that? And you're like, oh, okay, well, a bit more clued up than they thought, which is always a nice thing to think. Perfect. I'm going to pick another question. So I think we've already covered this one. It says, how did you get into your career in motorsport? Which I think we've already done. So I will pick another one. This is about Minna, if you're okay to speak. So what journey did you take into becoming a commercial assistant, and what are your tips in how to steer in that direction in the early stages?
Tough one. I think I'm a bad example in some senses, because I didn't know that I necessarily wanted to be in commercial, but that sort of also should reassure people that it's okay. You know, a bit like we were touching on before. If you're, you know, I don't know necessarily how old everyone is here today, but if you are, you know, either have a university degree locked in or you've already graduated, it's not too late. You don't have to have done something necessarily specific. I wanted to be a glaciologist. I thought glaciers, that was it. I loved them at university. So, you know, there's definitely sort of, you know, it's never too late, and it's okay if you haven't necessarily done something in motorsport. I think, you know, for me, it was about shaping what I had done and applying that to a motorsport sort of sense. So a lot of the stuff that I did at university in terms of data analysis, or I then worked at a recruitment company for a bit, and it was sort of all about looking at business KPIs. I did a bit of work on, you know, diversity and inclusion, and it had absolutely nothing to do with the industry, but it's about how you are able to communicate that in an interview and apply it to the role that you're applying for. So it's sort of, you know, saying that, you know, at the end of the day, if you're doing data analysis, whether or not you're looking at how a glacier melts over the summer season, or how our, you know, partner reports are going over the season, it's the same skill. It's just a different bit of data that you're looking at. Yeah, I think you know, don't be disheartened if you don't necessarily have anything yet. It's never too late to start, and it's also just about how you can apply your existing knowledge. I sort of came out of university and was like, okay, well, that was all a waste, because now I want to do something completely different. But it wasn't. You know, attention to detail. In my interview, I had to do a attention to detail test, and literally a sort of spot the grammar mistakes and spot the different mistakes in this article. So it's, you know, there's a lot of transferable skills, and I think even if you don't feel like you have the skills within that certain industry, you know, you are bound to have them. It's just about applying them, and just the way in which you can communicate that into the role that you're applying for. I don't know if I've answered that question at all.
No, that's really good. It's really good, because I think a lot of, especially people, there might be some in secondary school at the moment, and I think there's a lot of panic at that stage, because none of your subjects are really centered like specifically. It's just like kind of broad, and you've got to do them all. I think it's a really important message to know that it's okay if you don't 100% know. If you have a vague idea, just work on the soft skills that are easily accessible, and just network. I think that's probably the thing, because you can always change. It's never too late to change. So yeah, it's a really good example. So thank you. Okay, so this is probably for everyone now. So what is one piece of advice which you wish someone had told you when you were first starting out? So obviously we've all had pretty unique starts in our careers, but maybe at the point of when you knew that's what you wanted to do in motorsport, what was one thing you wish that maybe you could have had just day one given to you?
To go. I think when I was younger, like job longevity was like really sought after. So it's like you had to be in a role for like 2 years because it shows you were committed, and then that's what would then get you another role, because it's like you can hold down a job for 2, 3, 4 years. And I think actually it's like I wish someone had just told me it's okay to change. Like you don't. I ended up staying in a couple of jobs before this one that I've got where I was really unhappy. Like I was ordering automotive parts for Renault and Nissan, and I was doing the same thing every day. I had to order off-road vehicle parts by 3 p.m. and it was the same process every single day. And like I was taking stock of screws, and like great, okay, it taught me a lot. I developed a lot of those like kind of core skills we've been talking about, just like time management, organization, those kind of things. I learned a lot of that, which has helped me in my role now. But like I think, potentially at some point I could have just been there for 6 months and moved into another job. But for me, it was like, it was drilled into me. It's like, you have to stay somewhere for at least a year, at least 2 years before anyone else will consider you. And I think that's just not the case now. Like if you can demonstrate the key skills, if you can demonstrate the passion, if you can get yourself in front of people to have a conversation and really sell yourself as a person and what you can bring to an organization, like don't be fearful of changing a job and staying somewhere just because you think you have to, because more years on the clock make it seem like you're more employable, because it's not the case at all.
Exactly. I think you can get more variety as well if you switch.
You do, yeah. I mean, I switched around a lot when I was younger. Like I said, done lots of different things, and I don't know whether it has helped me now, but I've learned a lot. And I think especially with motorsport, there are always a lot of opportunities to move into different industries. Like we've all said, it's really, really competitive, but there are so many like cool and different things you can do within the sport that's not even necessarily like working in F1. I know that's like a real dream for a lot of people, and it's a amazing world to be a part of, but maybe the travel isn't for everyone. But then there's other ways that you can be involved in motorsport and get a lot of like job satisfaction from it as well. So yeah,
that's really good. Thank you. Anyone else got any tips?
I think your job is what you make it. So that sounds a little bit cliche, but like when I joined, yeah, like personally when I joined, I was very much like accounting and numbers and just purely like pounds driven. Whereas now it's very much like statistics and which disciplines are performing well and which ones aren't. And it's because I've chosen to make my role that way. And obviously Motorsport UK have supported me throughout that.
Yeah.
But your role will grow and it will expand. And I guess jumping back to what Minna said earlier, like you might not like everything on your CV, but it can always grow.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like I think there's never like a finite amount of skills that you're ever going to obtain, and it's always going to change. It's always going to grow. And I think, don't be put off by the initial of this is what I have and that's what I'll always stay as, because it's just not the case.
And also just jumping in off the back of that, it's like, don't be afraid when you are in a role to, present new ideas. Abbie will know that I have, set up, but I always wanted to do more with the events, and I wanted to do some hospitality for one of our championships, and, presented that to my boss this year. That was something that was never on my job spec, that was never even, considered. And I wanted to see if I could do it. And I luckily, Abbie very kindly made it happen this year. But yeah, definitely, as you're saying, there's so much more that you can do, and don't be afraid to sort of say it to your boss or whoever it is. Oh, I've got this idea. Could we expand and potentially do this or set up this initiative? But I think another one that I just wanted to say on, your question was of what, if I wish that someone had told me back then was that Formula One isn't necessarily everything. I think I was so fixated that like motorsport is Formula One and that's it. and you have to go straight into Formula One. And if you don't go straight in, that's it. You're never going to get the opportunity again. And best believe I got rejected from pretty much every single Formula One team. But you know, like I said,
Right, really.
yeah, it's about, you know, getting that first foot in the door, and who knows where we'll all be in, you know, 10 years time. But, you know, right now, for example, even in the last year, I think I was at the job for 2 months and I got an opportunity to meet Lewis Hamilton. I've now met 2 other Formula One drivers. I've been to different HQs. One of my biggest stakeholders is the sporting director at Mercedes Formula One or whatever. So it's, you know, if you don't get into Formula One straight away, it isn't the be all and end all. You know, motorsport, as we're saying, is such a small industry that actually you'll get exposure to so many different areas. And, you know, Formula One is stressful. You know, you're away from home 280 days or something a year. And yeah, don't get disheartened. I think I just put so much pressure on myself that it was Formula One or nothing. And I sort of poo-pooed all the lower divisions when actually they're often a lot more fun, inclusive, and you know, you have a bit more time on your hands, but also you still have that, you know, connection to them as well. So yeah, Formula One is amazing, but not everything.
Yeah.
I was just going to agree with Minna as well. And like I was the same. But it's kind of probably like a lack of like knowledge from my side. But it's like, and it's a bit cringe, but just trust the process and like enjoy it, enjoy the journey, because like you kind of always fixated on where you want to go and the next thing and what's coming up, but kind of just enjoy where you're at now. And just kind of make the most of it, because that's where you're going to get the most opportunities. And I know it sounds cliche, but like I never pictured myself working for the governing body, but it's presented me with opportunities to do things that I never ever thought I would do and never would have ended up doing if I had gone and worked in F1. So I think, yeah, that's a really big thing.
I think that's exactly it, isn't it? It's like F1 is provided as the, you know, the top tier, and everything else is like sub low, and it's like it's just not the case. And I think when you work for, you know, companies that aren't F1, I think the community is a lot stronger, because you can all get like more into networking and meet actually probably more of the people who built up to F1, if that makes sense. So no, that's a really good perspective. So thank you. Okay, so kind of leading on from what we've just said is, what is the best way to gain contacts in motorsport, and how can you use them to benefit your career? So is anyone?
I think like cliche but like stuff like Girls on Track is the best way and best place to start. I mean, you know, we host so many networking opportunities where you can actually speak to women in the industry that will want to help you, because we've all been there. But kind of outside of that, I mean, there is other ways. You know, when I was working in sports, I went to networking breakfasts and stuff like that, which you kind of find in your area online. And it's cringe, but you never know. And when you speak to individuals, you're not kind of doing it in hope that one day you'll get a job from them, but you kind of never know. And it's just good to have a connection of people, and you'll kind of then be able to use them later in life. Yeah, and LinkedIn's going to be your best friend whenever you meet someone. Get them on LinkedIn, because you never know where that might lead. You don't have to have a conversation with them, but they might host an opportunity or whatever. But yeah, just LinkedIn will be your best friend in terms of networking.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was, you know, it was actually getting out there as well, just going to, whether it's a club event, you know, whether it's, you know, something like the touring cars or F4 or karting, and just getting your, you know, name out there, getting people's emails, badgering people. We are busy and we will see your message and maybe not reply, but if you send us another one, we're probably more likely to reply. You know, don't be afraid if they haven't responded to your email. You know, send another one. it's don't feel embarrassed to do that. I sent, so many just cold emails from all of my little email connections that I'd got from being out in the paddock, and maybe it's like a 10-to-1 on who, how many emails you have to send to get one response, but you only need one. And so yeah, don't be afraid to just call up, email again. LinkedIn, as Danielle said, is your best friend, and just make sure that whoever you're meeting, you are getting their name, getting their email, but whether it's even if you don't have a sort of organized connection sort of event, even just going to your local club or local racetrack, any of the sort of, that doesn't take much, it's not expensive necessarily, and just trying to meet as many people as possible and then badgering them until they reply.
Exactly. And I think in my experience as I say an ex-university student, I only graduated this summer, but I think from getting like volunteering opportunities with Girls on Track, Cosworth, Motorsport UK, I think it is all about being on like the down low with it. So it's like the Facebook group chats, it's in the Instagrams, even on the TikTok or anything that these companies, organizations are putting out there to promote the opportunities and the events. It's following those, keeping up with them, seeing who's like a recognizable face, because we all circle around the same people because we all like have the same passion. So for me, as a university student, getting the contacts and the opportunities, it is just being active on those social media websites has really like helped myself.
Goodwood's a really good other one as well, especially either volunteering. I volunteered at Goodwood Revival, but Festival of Speed as well, because you literally have everybody in the industry all together in one place, and it looks good on your CV because you're doing something proactive, but it's the best place to meet, have connections and meet people. We're there.
Yeah, exactly. I work there, so yeah, it's really good, actually, really good, and everyone's so friendly. And I think that's a massive thing about especially like females in this community, is we're not trying to gatekeep. We want more. So just don't be afraid. And like you said about the emailing, I sent so many emails and nobody's responded, and you kind of get numb to it in the end. You're like, yeah, they haven't responded, that's fine. And then you see another one, you're like, oh, okay, someone to talk to. So yeah, definitely a tip for everyone watching: don't be afraid and just send the email, because what's the worst that can happen? They're not going to respond, and then you continue with your day. Like that's literally it.
I was told a little email trick once, because I think we've probably all done the thing where it's always info at, it's like the only emails you can find sometimes on like team websites and stuff, and you're like, does anyone actually man this inbox, or is it just like a but someone told me a trick once, which is like, I don't know whether they do it too much, but sometimes at the bottom of press releases or like news stories, they'll put like someone in the media team's contact, but you might not want to speak to that person, but you can see how the company phrases their emails. So for example, we're like first name dot surname at motorsportuk.org, but other companies will be slightly different. So if you know the name of the person you might want to speak to, but you don't know what their email is, but you see on a press release their first name dot surname at blah blah blah, then you can kind of figure out what that, and it's a little bit, it's probably like borderline, it's probably like corporate stalking, which I think is okay. But it's just a way to actually then, like, if you're not getting anywhere with the faceless like info at, general at kind of emails, it's almost an initiative as well. Like, that person might be like, okay, how have they got my email? They've clearly like, and it's just, it's a way to just, it's honestly, and it's worked so many times. People have done it to me before and I've been like, fair play, like,
we do for sponsorship outreach sometimes. If we can find the email, we'll do exactly that.
It's just like little tricks of the trade that, like Minna said, people in the sport do it to kind of build relationships within the sport, so why not try it yourself when you're trying to get a career in the sport?
Exactly. If you can't beat the system, join it.
Exactly.
Perfect. Is anything else to add, or shall I move on? Because we haven't probably got much time left, so I'm trying to get through as many as we can. Okay, so maybe we can do these ones at quick fire. Okay, so sort of similar, but what is the best piece of advice you've received from someone to help you get into the industry? So if we all just say one thing. if there's any key, you know, even if it's like not like a moral support thing, just like keep going, you know, if there's anything at all.
I'd say just be confident in yourself and
Yeah.
what you can do, because that's really important.
Yeah, perfect.
For me, it was like a master's isn't everything. Sorry, Danielle. Masters are great, but I think, you know, I was very stressed about when do I do a master's, and actually volunteering is probably just as beneficial for the role that I was going in for, obviously depending on what role you're going in for. But yeah, for me it was just that a master's isn't everything, and actually just kickstarting and getting out there, being proactive was just as important.
For me, it was don't let the no's get you down. So like it's soul destroying when you're just either not hearing back or you're constantly getting no's. And like it will happen for you in one way or another. You just gotta like keep persevering, which I know is much easier said than done, but yeah.
Perfect. Has anybody else got anything else? If not, I can do another question. That's okay. Cool. So, okay. So this one's for Emily and Danielle. How closely do you work with photographers? That's for you.
I work with them quite a lot on events. Obviously I work mainly in social, so I'm doing kind of phone shot stuff, social led stuff. But kind of at the bigger events, we hire freelance photographers and we brief them in, and then they go away and they shoot what we've briefed in, and then we use it for social coverage effectively. So yeah, we work quite closely. We use a wide range. We don't work with any particular one.
Yeah.
We have loads that do specialize in different things. So yeah, we work very closely with them, which is nice to have creative variation with stuff.
That's good. And maybe just to add on that, when you are looking to scout photographers, what is something that you see in their portfolio that you guys, they're going to be good for this team?
So I think, I mean, a lot of it, unfortunately, but it's kind of the way of the industry, is word of mouth. So that's where the networking comes in, because it's kind of, we do get a lot of emails of, you know, portfolios and stuff, but we get so many, it's hard to kind of sort through them and, you know, pick them out. So this is where the networking comes in. If you have a, you know, recognized name, or even if you phone up and say, I'm going to send my portfolio through, you know, you're going to speak to a human being, you're going to get that human connection. And I think that's really important. But a lot of them are through people that know people, and kind of through, you know, I've recommended some to Motorsport UK, and, you know, other people in the team have recommended people, and that's how they kind of, we then work with them for different things. So yeah, that's kind of where networking comes in terms of if you're working as a freelancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from my side, I mean, I don't work directly with photographers, but I work quite a lot with what they produce. I work with the imagery and the videography that they produce. And I think my advice to any sort of aspiring photographer or videographer would be to find your own style. I think, you know, when we're looking for photographers or videographers, you know, we're looking for ones that align with who we are as a brand, but what the style of photography that we look for will be very different from the style of photography that Alpine would look for example. So I think, you know, it's about finding your own style and what makes you stand out as a photographer, and also just get as much experience as possible. You know, you can go to events, even it doesn't have to be a huge event or a championship. You know, most of the time we're struggling to find content and images for the smaller club events, because we just don't, there just aren't people out there taking those pictures. So yeah, I think it's all about just getting that experience and finding your own flair. Someone else has just popped up and said about graphic designers as well. You know, we have our graphic designers in-house here, but I think advice for that is, again, just sort of just get the experience. There's loads of free online resources as well. If you don't have, you know, time to go to university, or you're looking to sort of add it, if you're a marketer or a social media manager and you're looking to kind of expand your graphic design skills, there's loads of free resources online that you can find. And it's with anything like that, it's practice makes perfect. It is cheesy, it is a cliche, but it really is true. When I look at some of the like graphic stuff that I did when I first started my career, it's honestly embarrassing. I can't believe anyone paid me to do it, but they did. So I think it is just about practicing, and again, just particularly with design, focusing on the theory is really important, and actually people don't realize that it's not just putting pretty things in boxes. It's, you know, you actually have to learn the theory of it and the balance of design. But
that's perfect. Well, I think we're going to have to wrap up, I think, because we're going to run over otherwise. But I would just like to say a quick thank you, obviously, to our lovely panelists for taking the time out of their busy schedules for being here. I'm sure we can all thank them in the chat as well. And I think I can speak for everyone, I'm sure, that we've learned a lot about the pathways and maybe about how to start off, because it's always the first bit, like the initial bit of your career, that's always like the hardest to get into because it's just so daunting. So thank you very much for joining. And obviously thank you to Girls on Track UK and obviously the company Motorsport UK for taking part in this.